You know, as chair of the Water Committee, thank you very much, Mr. Pro Tem, I'm working very hard to try to develop a broad picture on sustainable water policy. What should we be doing in our water policy for California going forward? Historically, we stuck a straw in Northern California or in the Colorado River, and we got water in Southern California where there were a lot of people and not a lot of water, created a lot of environmental problems and a lot of political problems. When I look when I examine kind of the big picture, it's water recycling, it's conservation, desal, water markets, water quality. We have, as Senator Monning will tell you, Flint problems all around the state, and stormwater. In Southern California, we saw millions of gallons in the Los Angeles River rush to the ocean when we had these big storms, and we did not capture that water. Orange County does a brilliant job in recycling water and capturing water and recharging the groundwater so that you have a water supply for water. And so the purpose of this bill is to create a structure of governance that's smarter about capturing storm water. But we have run into somewhat of a legal roadblock among the lawyers, if you will. And here's how it goes. In 1996, Proposition 218 was passed. When Proposition 218 was passed, it said you need a vote of the people if you're going to raise taxes. Understand that. Don't necessarily agree with that in every respect, but that's the law of the land. But they exempted a number of kinds of fees that relate to people's property. If there's a benefit and a value to your property, they exempted that. And if you read the LAO's analysis, which all the voters in California had at the time that they voted on this thing, it said Prop 218 exempted assessments where all the funds were used to pay for sidewalks, streets, sewers, water, flood control, drainage systems, or vector control, such as mosquito control, close quote. That's what was before the voters. These were exemptions, okay? And so based upon kind of anybody's reasonable standard with respect to those exemptions, the city of Salinas in 1999 went off to pass a fee. And they were litigated against, and the lower court case, very bright guy, he was appointed by the first Governor Brown, meaning not Edmund G., but Jerry Brown, the first round in 1977. No disrespect to those people who went to Bolt Hall Law School here, but he's a graduate of Bolt Hall, and he's a great judge. And basically, he was challenged on the ground that, well, stormwater is not sewer water. Stormwater is not drainage water. Stormwater is something different, and then you got to go to the vote of the people. And everybody said, come on, this is crazy. And this is what the judge said in his opinion. This is the judge's opinion in the trial court case. He says, Proposition 218 specifically exempts fees for sewer, water, and refuge collection services. The fee imposed by this resolution is clearly a fee related to sewer and water services. The fact that Section 5 specifically refers to flood control is not persuasive. He held in favor of the city's right because he said this was clearly the law. This is what people voted on. Made a lot of sense. It was litigated, went to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals judge in that case said it's ambiguous. It's ambiguous, and held and said you couldn't do it, you need a vote of the people. The judge was wrong. The judge was wrong. And since then, what happened was, and what we've done with respect to this measure, is that we have in 2014 passed a measure defining water further that I think is very instructive since this case was handed down in 2002. And that was a Speaker-rendered bill, and it defines water. Water means any system of public improvement intended to provide for the production, storage, supply, treatment, or distribution of water from any source. That's the law of the land. That was passed by the California legislature in 2014 and signed by the governor. So we're in this state of what's water? What's dirty water? What if you have a sewer? What if you have a system of stormwater collection, but not every ounce of water is actually captured in the system? What does that mean? How do you govern? How do you create an intelligent, sustainable system of capturing water to be able to do this? And so what we've done in this legislation, I had this bill last year, and I held it on the assembly floor because I wanted to make it better. I went back The argument was, well, let's look at the law in 1996. I went back to 1913, and I quoted every case. I looked at every definition of water in the dictionaries. I went back and added in the definition of water that Speaker Rendon put in his measure to make sure it was clear, so if this gets litigated against, that dirty water is dirty water. That the idea behind this is to benefit property owners, and that there's a causal connection. Now, there's a bunch of advocates out there who are telling you the sky is going to fall, that somehow this relates to Prop 13, that your taxes on your property are going to go through the moon. Well, it's just not accurate. I'm not going to go through the details unless somebody wants to ask me, but we've done the analysis. We've looked at the numbers. You're not going to build a $20 billion system in LA County in 1 year. Those things aren't going to happen. But what we're trying to do is to bring common sense to the underlying notion of trying to develop intelligent, thoughtful water policy for California. And so I've brought this bill forth. I've done a great deal of homework. I held it back a year because I wanted to really drill in and make sure that if this gets litigated against, that there's no ambiguity with respect to what the historical meaning was by old Supreme Court cases. No ambiguity in terms of what the definition of water is. No ambiguity in any respect, so that the underlying intention of Prop 218, which was to exempt properties, exempt fees for trash collection or water development or these kinds of things that relate to the property. You know, we saw in San Jose these unbelievable floods. What does that mean? So I think in every fair reading, looking historically back 86 years, that this really is the intention, that this is the meaning, that this was the intention of Prop 218 as written. I ask for your support of this measure.
Senator Hertzberg, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to add a couple of thoughts. The senator from Fremont just indicated to me a thought that I thought is worth sharing to everybody, and that is, when a court says something's ambiguous, it really invites one of the other branches of government to eliminate that ambiguity. And the argument that this is watering down Prop 218 in any respect, I would say it's cleaning up the water. I would say it's making water sustainable, and I would further say that it's really making sure, I mean, literally, you had every voter vote on a manual, on the voter manual that I just read to this chamber. And it's pretty clear to me, one court, one place, one time, made one decision. The purpose of the law, as written, was to say you have the voters vote on at 2/3, except these areas. So what we're looking about is the definition of what these areas are. How do you determine when a sewer overflows and there's a molecule goes into a flood control? How do you know which molecule is sewer and which molecule is stormwater? How do you make that determination? What I'm trying to accomplish here is to, especially from my point of view in Southern California, where we have these water problems, and I want us to eliminate the extraordinary reliance we have in other parts of the state to create sustainability, to stop dumping water in the ocean, to create systems to capture water, to recharge our groundwater basin, to be smart and thoughtful about it, and that's what we're trying to do. That water is going to benefit property owners. That is specifically the conversations that I had with the advocates who are seeking to oppose this. And that was its purpose. That's why I held the bill last year. I thought they made a good point. That's why I did the additional research in that regard. And so all I can tell you is, you know, Mark Twain always said, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over. Today in this bill, it's sewer water that's worth fighting over. Ask for your aye vote.